Welcome, everyone, and thank you for attending today's webinar, Transforming the Healthcare Provider Experience with Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. Before we begin, I wanted to cover a few housekeeping items. If you have technical or content-related questions during the presentation, please use the Q&A window and we will address your questions. Closed captioning is available by hovering over the stage area and clicking the CC button at the bottom of the screen. You can expand, minimize, and move each of the window panes displayed on your screen. And don't forget to visit our additional resources available in the resource list. We encourage you to download any resources or links that you might find useful. I would like to now introduce our moderator for today, Thomas Sarzeski. Thomas is Argonaut's Senior Vice President and Healthcare Industry Lead, helping Prospect Medical and other clients transition to Oracle Cloud Solutions. With 25 years in IT, he excels in cloud ERP and supply chain management projects and has extensive experience with Oracle products like PeopleSoft, EBS, and JD Edwards. Thomas, welcome. You may now begin.
Fantastic. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you for the introduction. We are Argonaut, premier Oracle partner for healthcare with over 800 practitioners in Oracle cloud space. Fantastic Net Promoter Score indicating our excellence in delivery of all components of Oracle technology for healthcare space. We also won 2024 Partner Awards for Innovation in Space. And we are extremely excited to share the stage today with Esteban Rubens, Healthcare Field CTO on Oracle side. I've been working with Esteban in setting the strategy for our offering for healthcare. Esteban, thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Fantastic. So to go straight to the content, exciting content for today, we would like to explore and share some meaningful examples of how Oracle Cloud Infrastructure can solve common healthcare provider problems, specifically how OCI can automate both clinical and non-clinical workflows. We would specifically like to see how Oracle technology can tie electronic medical records, ERP revenue cycle, areas in healthcare provider space. So the plan for today is to start with an overview of Oracle Cloud Infrastructure capabilities and Oracle viewpoint on this space. And we will then walk you through some common patterns that Argonaut found helpful when using Oracle Cloud Infrastructure technology and automating healthcare provider workflows, and then specifically walk you through a great example of how Oracle can help with automating those, specifically eFax, patients, referrals automation. So Esteban, with that, I will advance the slide to an overview of the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure platform. But I think, maybe the question would be why we are talking about OCI in the context of eFax, patient referrals. What's the overall view of Oracle on life science providers, public health, and payers?
That's a great question, one that comes up often. And I'll start answering by saying that if you haven't heard, Oracle refers to itself as a healthcare company now. After the acquisition of Cerner, the creation of the Oracle Health business unit that comprises the electronic health record, public health analytics, our clinical trials unit, and pharmacovigilance. We have a real-world data, real-world evidence consulting. So there's a lot that we do under the new Oracle Health umbrella. And beyond the fact that our founder is now referring to Oracle as a healthcare company and is keenly interested in having Oracle contribute to solving some of the problems that healthcare has, not only in the US, but globally, we also have the Oracle Cloud, which is really what is driving a lot of the growth for Oracle. So I have to say, for myself, being at the intersection of cloud and healthcare at Oracle is very exciting because it's where everything is happening. So it's a great time. We have a lot of really good people working on these problems. We've announced really fascinating developments, like the new version of the electronic health record that's switching the paradigm from a keyboard-driven interaction to a conversational EHR that's cloud native. And that is really a big deal. And what we see here really is kind of that viewpoint of Oracle as a health focus or health centric company that has built everything on the foundation, the bedrock of the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. Everything we do now is based on our second generation cloud, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, that we refer to as OCI. And we something a lot of people don't even know. We go to HIMSS or we go to Vive or Health, a lot of the health conferences, and people want to talk about the fact that, Oracle actually has a hyperscaler. Oracle has a public cloud. Yes, we indeed do. And it's not only a public cloud, but it's a very significant player. We have a huge global footprint. We have regions where others don't. And so because of that, we have our infrastructure layer, then we have our PaaS infrastructure services layer. And then on the healthcare side, we have a lot of applications built on that foundation. And if you look at what applications we have, it's interesting because there are parallels between all these applications and the focus that Oracle has had for almost 50 years on the enterprise. So we are viewing this as an enterprise problem that is similar to other enterprise problems that Oracle has been very successful in helping with over the last 47, 48 years. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, right, why we're here and why it makes sense to talk about this. And then just briefly to kind of go into it a little more, I refer to this as a second generation cloud, which is true. We had a first generation cloud that we vastly improved with this cloud. And we, at the core, you have all the infrastructure that you would expect, CPU, GPU, compute. We have all the storage, block, object, everything that you expect, right? This is no different than the other hyperscalers, surrounded by very specific platform services and back office applications like, Argonaut has worked with for a long time, in the Fusion ERP side. And the fascinating thing is that as the only hyperscaler that has a healthcare component that owns an EHR, electronic health record, and owns the population health platform, we can now fulfill that promise of bringing in all this data into the healthcare enterprise, not just clinical data from the EHR and Pop Health, but also things like inventory control or supply chain or financials. There's a lot to talk about, but in a nutshell, that is why we're talking about this and the ability to integrate this, right, and transform that data into something useful to derive the right insights without losing focus on the fact that in the US, in Western Europe, in a lot of the world, the electronic health record is the hub that the clinicians use, right? Doctors, nurses, everybody lives in the EHR. So we want the useful, actionable insights, such as the ones that you're going to be talking about, to eventually make their way back into the EHR, because that's where the clinicians need them, right? And so completing that loop is really huge, and it shows kind of the flexibility of how you can do work. And it also pays testament to the way that we approach this as a very open ecosystem, publishing HL7 Fire APIs that allow for all this interoperability to take place. and really also underscoring how much we appreciate partners, and how much work we do with partners. So I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Esteban. So then the question becomes, why, in the context of, modern complete platform in healthcare, why are we talking about such an ancient technology as fax, e-fax transmission, and why did we pick it up as a topic for today? The reason for it is, Esteban, as we spoke earlier, faxes are everywhere, right? For many, many reasons, right? It's that primary vehicle for sharing patient data, whether driven by regulatory reasons, technology adoption. So our thinking for today's panel is that we could use that paradox of having all those wonderful technology elements at our disposal: machine learning, big data, integration services, new generation of Oracle Integration Cloud healthcare platform. How can we apply it to tackle that's that prevalence of fax in healthcare provider space in the US? Before we get to example of how we were able to, very rapidly automate the patient referral process using OCI, I would like to maybe spend just a moment talking about the common healthcare pattern that we've seen in healthcare provider space, because that will help us understand how we built the patient referral solution. So on the left-hand side, you have a typical, very, very common scenario in healthcare where you have a good amount of structured data sources: electronic medical records, ERP, HCM, RevCycle. That's where Argano capabilities in healthcare space started. But then you've got tons of data, tons of information being exchanged using fairly unstructured, messy means of communication: faxes, blurry images, usually tons of them. And with that, a lot of manual work involved in looking at them, extracting meaningful data for both clinician and back office employees. So our approach is to first use Oracle Integration Cloud to ingest all possible data sources, both structured, unstructured, and move them over to Oracle Cloud Storage, run document understanding services, a powerful feature that allows you to look at PDFs, images, extract keywords, understand what's inside those documents, patient referral packets being one of them. Then we can use healthcare specific AI and machine learning models to essentially understand what's in those documents, what's in the keywords that we have extracted, what's the content meaning, what are clinical data entities in those documents. Then once we have all those pieces of information in one single place, data warehouse, we can then drive process automation. So send information back or clarify information back to EMR or ERP. When necessary, involve operators, users to review the results of that analysis if needed, aggregate the data for analytics, and allow users to have a conversation, live conversation with the content of those documents. Specifically, we'll come back to this, which technologies, protocols we can use. I would just like to highlight one of the fantastic features that became available with the latest edition of healthcare edition of Oracle Integration Cloud, which is ability to communicate natively using FHIR HL7 protocols. Then when we switch to walkthrough of the eFax and patient referral solutions, I'm hoping that will be that this framework would be easier for us to understand how we solved and automated the problem.
Let me add something very quickly. I love how you're doing this because it's not passing judgment on how old or annoying faxes are. They're a fact of life in healthcare. You know, if you're in healthcare, you're dealing with faxes as a patient, consumer of healthcare, as a clinician, practitioner, no matter where you are, you see them. And so this is actually rolling up your sleeves and doing something about it because it is a problem. It's not going away anytime soon. I would love for it to, you know, be like Thanos and have 50% of faxes, you know, just like disappear immediately. But that's not happening anytime soon. So this is very pragmatic and it's absolutely necessary. There's almost no one in healthcare in the US who would not benefit from this because it is an actual problem in search of a solution. It's not coming up with a solution in search of a problem. So this is excellent.
Fantastic. Thank you, Esteban. So let's take a quick look at what the actual application of Oracle Cloud Infrastructure toolsets could look like. On the screen right now, you can see just a brief summary of the process that we were able to automate using OCI in the context of patient referrals. So the first step, hundreds, thousands of patient referral packets arrive through fax numbers, eFax, APIs in our healthcare provider landscape. In the sort of prior to application of the OCI automation toolset, one of the providers where we are implementing this solution, essentially the whole department of people, patient referral coordinators had to look at every single PDF and every single fax transmission, page by page, sometimes dozens of pages for a single referral packet, to extract, to understand what's the patient name, what's the content of that packet, who's referring that patient to us. So our approach here was to, again, connect to the inbound fax channels, capture those documents that are coming in through fax, store them as images, clean them up, but then run the document understanding through them. So essentially extract all the information from them. Once we do that, we can we can perform one single step, which is which are patient referral packets, which are not. And surprisingly, in the world of messy fax transmission, answering that question, which is, what is this document? What does it represent? Was already a meaningful input for patient referral coordinators. But once we run the PDFs through document understanding, we are able to extract patient data, compare it with the data that is already stored in electronic medical records. If there is a match presented to the coordinator, if not, run it for manual adjustment process. So let's take a look at what's the end user experience could be. So obviously, we are able to present a queue of incoming documents and separate them between new patient referrals that require review or are pending that's automated analysis. When you see warning status for the incoming documents, those are the messy transmissions where we don't have a clear understanding of or where the models had difficulty in extracting the data and matching it with the EMR records. And then you can see not a referral status. This is noise. Secondly, obviously, we can produce some statistics around the queue, the aging of that queue, where those packets on which they were received, and importantly, split them by department, right? So make a selection either based on the content of the document or the incoming channel, whether they should be routed to pediatric oncology or ER or NICU. Lastly, if we can extract the physician information, we can also make that provide that summary. But this is a view of a department queue, so you can see that in the test environment we had a handful of documents that require review. The solution then split them between each individual department that's for which we need to perform a review, and for each department we can assign them to referral coordinator based on either workload or other rules that we can put in place or learn automatically based on documents history. So this is just a very, very basic view to highlight the fact that the solution can work with multiple departments, multiple coordinators. There's a workflow component embedded in that. Obviously, if we have an indication of any of those received eFax transmissions being urgent, that can be flagged. And on the screen right now, we have selected our queue to start with urgent transmissions. So let's then take a look at the verification queue. This is sample data, synthetic data. Obviously, we are not showing any real referrals. So no real patients are shown on the screen. This is obviously sample data test environment. But you can see a referral queue with multiple departments, providers, coordinators assigned to each and every document. For each document, we can obviously then take a closer look at the content of that fax transmission. But I would like to go straight to where the real power of OCI technology really shows the automation potential. So right now we can see we have clicked on one of the documents, and what you can see on the screen on the right-hand side is that using document understanding feature, we can extract and summarize from those dozens of pages of patient referral packets provided in multiple formats, sometimes messy, sometimes blurry, but this is an example where document understanding model was able to extract and summarize some demographic details about the patient, observation, diagnosis. That's in the top right corner of the screen. So a summary of hundreds of pages of documentation that is behind that referral packet. That is presented to the referral coordinator for initial review, and then suggested match. So if there is already a patient record that meets with confidence criteria that were set for the system, our solution can then provide a suggested match with existing patient record. So this already saves tons of time on the patient referral coordinator side. We have a identification of existing record. We can now look at the content of the document, double check everything, and if we hit confirm, back to the diagram that Esteban showed at the very, very beginning of the webinar, where we had that loop between Oracle Integration Cloud Toolset and EMR, using available APIs from Oracle Health or other EMRs, we can add this referral packet as reviewed to the existing patient record. If there are other matches that are possible with lower confidence, they are also presented to the user. But I quite on purpose wanted to pause and to focus on this particular screen print, because that's where the essence of the automation potential really lies, right? So one, ability to extract the text from fax images, summarize it, present it in a meaningful manner to both administrative staff as well as physicians, and then suggest a match or automation opportunity by attaching this packet to the underlying EMR system. That is really the reason why we started with this use case, because it's clearly for one of the leading pediatric hospitals where we are implementing this solution today. This is the opportunity for them to save tons of time, both on the back office as well as physician side. Obviously, with that solution, we have ability to confirm matches, look at the all pages of the documents, of the original document if needed. But if approved, that summarized version of the packet is then sent to EMR. One thing where we probably may want to pause here and also add a comment, Esteban, that there is a common perception, notion, or maybe worry about applying AI, machine learning in intersection of clinical non-workflow, like non-clinical workflow settings. I wanted to just take a pause here and talk a little bit about the human in the loop, right? So to maybe underscore the fact that even if that summary is presented to the user, we add a component of a review, we add a component of human in the loop. Any comments here, Esteban?
I absolutely agree that there are well-founded concerns, and we need to tackle them head on. So first of all, the human in the loop, as you're saying, is vital, because with that, we ensure that we're using automation for what it does best, but we're not putting all the eggs in one basket, right? We're using automation, and then we're making sure that things are working the way they should. And so, at one point, I think you had mentioned this idea of approaching this in stages. And so this is absolutely the first stage. There is no need to go beyond it. This is already not only a time saver, as you said, but it has direct relevance to patient care, because right now, not only do these referral processes often take too long, but patients fall through the cracks. We hear about that all the time. Things get lost, they don't get processed, they go into the wrong queue. So having an automated system to make sure those things don't happen is, again, not only a kind of flashing red lights technology solution, but it's, I always like to think about everything in terms of the quintuple aim, right? Does this improve patient care? Does it reduce costs? Well, yes, and yes. Does it improve the quality of life for clinicians? Well, yes, of course it does. Does it increase equity? Yes, of course it does. So it's almost like a home run, right? This almost hits every item in the quintuple aim, every aim, and with something that is then absolutely necessary. And then beyond that, in one of the slides you showed before, there was a concept of bring your own model, right? And in OCI, in Oracle Cloud, we have this concept that we meet you where you are. You can bring whatever tool you want, open source or not. You can bring your own models. We have some open source models. We have our own models, whatever works best. And then on top of it, the idea that if you want to bring your own model and you want to do some further training, refinement, you can do so in isolation. We can guarantee that you have an environment in which the model only sees the data that you want it to see. So there is no contamination, right? There is nothing exposing the model to things that are irrelevant or problematic. So that's another good thing about doing this, in this way. And then, of course, the possibilities are endless for the future, because you can, if we want to do more automation, we can introduce RAG, retrieval augmented generation, so that maybe each facility's procedures for referrals are taken into account when processing the referrals. Or if you introduce some kind of chatbot interface for people to kind of work with their queues, that is kind of guaranteed not to have hallucinations, because you are filtering everything through the lens of your own internal procedures. So it is absolutely right to talk about any concerns, but there are a lot of good answers that are not just hand waving, smoke and mirrors. There are real solutions to these concerns, and everybody can take it at their own speed. There's no one size fits all. The solution is here. You can start with this, and then you can stop. You can automate more. You can go in so many other directions, always making sure that the end users are comfortable and that we have the accuracy, right? The specificity, sensitivity, area under the curve, however you want to define it, that we're looking for. So it's actually better.
Fantastic. And you mentioned noise. You mentioned, fine tuning either generic or customer-owned models to detect transactions that are absolutely irrelevant for our queue. On the screen right now, this is one of the stages of the initial training and deployment, where we are effectively testing the incoming patient referral queue to detect documents and transmissions that are absolutely irrelevant. And on the screen, we have invoice, some random lab results transmission, and then op report that is not a patient referral. We can fine tune that ability to remove whatever is not a patient referral from the incoming queue. Users can then confirm that this indeed is a document that is irrelevant for the review. And by the way, all those user actions, that's human in the loop interaction, over time will obviously improve the accuracy of the model. So every single action where the user says, you're right, this is not a patient referral, this is an invoice. For some reason, someone used the wrong eFax or fax number. That obviously is a data point that would allow us to fine tune the model on a going forward basis. So that was a brief introduction of the eFax patient solutions back to that common framework that we talked about earlier. So you can see that first step, Oracle Integration Cloud, we are ingesting patient referrals, storing them in Oracle Cloud, extracting patient info, matching with existing patients or future planned encounter in EMR, and attaching the processed reviewed documents into the EMR solution. Before we maybe then talk about, how does this apply to a wider array of problems in healthcare? Patient referrals is just one area where Argano was able to use Oracle Cloud Infrastructure to automate provider workflows. But there are tons of other areas, Esteban, that I think we're going to talk about just in a few brief moments. There's a great potential looking at the overlap with revenue cycle, revenue management. Just one thing alone that we should have mentioned, global search across all the documents that we have. We are providing that ability with, both referral coordinators and physicians can look for any part, any fragment of the documents that were received. We talked about the ability to aggregate the data, provide some useful analytics. And we also have other examples where we use exactly the same approach, the same framework to automate processes that cross EMR, rev cycle, supply chain, such as implants billing. So I just wanted to make sure before we move on to sort of talking about bigger picture that this was just a very, very specific use case with patient referral automations, but obviously the opportunities are endless.
Yeah, beyond that, kind of the common thread is trying to move beyond all these data silos that we've created, right? We have done a lot to automate healthcare, some of it good, some of it not good. The result, though, is that we have all these crazy silos with big moats full of crocodiles, and it's very hard to kind of move data across and do it easily and usefully. So everything you were showing before, it has the same idea of bringing all these different kinds of data together from different systems and kind of building bridges across these modes so the data is more useful. We know that we can't necessarily eliminate the silos. The silos are there and they're probably going to stay. But if we can at least let the data move around and make the data more useful and join it, that can really deliver a lot of value, both in terms of financial value, but also in terms of patient care value. Because right now, I would venture to say that most healthcare facilities have a lot of data that is just locked in those silos, that maybe can be accessed in the context of the silo with some kind of reporting tool, but not in the context of everything. And if you think about something like bed management, thinking about predicting when you're going to need beds and when they're going to be ready. Well, yeah, you want EHR, EMR data, you want supply chain data, you want time and attendance data to know when people are going to be available to clean and set up the rooms, and you're going to have nursing staff and so many other things. And also external data. You want to know what the weather is going to be like, and you want to know if the CDC is predicting that there's going to be a spike in flu in your area, or any number of things. And the only way to get this done is to bring it all together with some kind of integration tool. And that is right up our alley. We've been doing that. We've been doing data integration the whole time that Oracle has been around. And now with the introduction of this healthcare edition of the integration tool in the Oracle Cloud, we can kind of do it all, right? Because we already could do all the non-healthcare data, now being able to look at HL7 and FHIR, and then also the external data sources. That allows us to have this overall view that really helps create these or generate these useful insights.
Are there any features specifically in the healthcare edition that you would like to highlight? We already mentioned HL7 that we used to communicate to sort of review patient referrals back to EMR. Anything that was worth mentioning? What is new?
The ability to not only look at HL7 and kind of FHIR, which is a subset of or a superset of HL7, but also to do transformation, right? To do things with those messages and send them on. So the ability to do transformation either in bulk or ad hoc is very important when you have any kind of workflow that is real time or near real time. And you have a list there, kind of translate versions. How many HL7 versions are there? No one really knows. There are too many, right? And FHIR, the same thing. You have things that work with one version that break hopelessly when you go to another version. So having that ability to do version translation is really, really important. And this is kind of the healthcare universal translator. This is something that if you're going to be doing any automation in healthcare, you absolutely need, because this is the language that we're using globally, right? For healthcare, it's become the standard. We don't have that many. There's HL7 FHIR, there's DICOM, and maybe a couple others. So it is crucially important to be able to kind of the same way that you were talking about the eFax solution. It's not just looking at something, it's understanding it. It's getting some semantic meaning out of it. And so when you can look into the packets, you can look into the messages and understand what's going on and, do the necessary transformations, that does a lot of the heavy lifting that otherwise people would have to create from scratch. Yeah, and as FHIR is obviously nice to have.
Absolutely. Carrie, we'll probably take a pause here for any questions that we might be getting from the audience before we get to call to action and Q&A.
Thomas, just as a reminder, you can ask a question by submitting them in the Q&A engagement tool located at the bottom of your screen. And while we're waiting a few minutes for questions to come in, I did have one that's been asked frequently. What is the complexity of implementing something like this? How long do you estimate to a proof of concept here?
I can take it, Esteban, but I think this is something that we didn't spend enough time on, is the velocity, right? The usual implementation cycle in healthcare sometimes is measured in months, years, and the common pattern that we've seen is that waiting for sometimes a simple solution such as here's a PDF or hundreds of thousands of them. I would like to see a summary of each and every one of them. It's a great question. So our experience implementing OCI is that it's just, it's amazing how you can stand up a meaningful proof of concept. So be able to prove that we can connect to the incoming eFax channels in a matter of weeks. To give everyone a sense of perspective, the initial iteration for the previous iteration of the eFax solutions took literally weeks, from standing up Oracle environments, connecting to the existing data sources, ingesting the data, and then showing users a way to interact with the data. Esteban, any thoughts here? Ease of use, speed?
Well, yeah, so OCI is built for that. And also I want to bring up the security aspect, right? The OCI security model is such that everything is denied by default. You have to explicitly allow things, and that makes it so that anything you do in OCI is more thoughtful, because there's no way to have anything fall through the cracks. So we implement something quickly. We have all the infrastructure and platform services that are necessary. And then on top of that, you have the peace of mind that the way we've created the Oracle Cloud is conducive to regulated industries like healthcare, because it's like we're making it very, very hard for anything to happen that you don't want to happen. I mean, there's always ways. I don't want to say never. No one can ever say never, but we've really thought long and hard about this, specifically from the perspective of regulated industries.
Of course.
I had a question about the resources, right? So yeah, we have CPU, GPU, we have everything available, but I think this is not a heavy solution, right? This is a pretty lightweight solution in terms of requirements. So can you comment on that?
Certainly. So there's a very lightweight footprint behind the eFax and patient referrals. The moderate flow, which is hundreds and thousands of documents, takes literally a autonomous data warehouse with minimal number of CPUs behind. So it's almost like a developer profile. There's a integration cloud component, Healthcare Edition, which the basic version of it takes 5,000 messages in the message pack. So entry level edition or compute profile of Oracle Integration Cloud, and few serverless functions flying in the background, serverless calls to machine learning models. So it's extremely super lightweight and ready to deploy in a very, very impressive time frame.
Great, thank you.
We do not have any questions at this time.
Fantastic. Well, so I guess where do we go from here? What's the call to action? We have shared in our documents panel, and I'm sure it'll be available, carried to everyone joining here online, just a couple of links and a couple of materials that, number one, just summarize our approach, joint approach with Oracle for healthcare, summarize the solutions that we talked about today. And one thing that we would definitely like to point everyone to, back to Esteban's question on, how quickly can it be implemented? What's needed from Oracle Cloud Integration Resources perspective to implement a proof of concept of the toolset that we showed today. There's the Integrated Data Strategy Workshop for Healthcare link in the materials. So I would encourage everyone to familiarize with those links and Oracle materials provided with our workshop. Data Strategy Workshop would be an excellent next step, where for all webinar participants who are interested, we can spend time talking about the pain points, opportunities for automation, look even more in depth at any of the use cases that we talked about today. So we would encourage everyone to click the links and familiarize themselves with the content provided there.
Yeah, and I'll say I heartily recommend that. I talk to customers all the time, and there's lots of great ideas, but usually they run headfirst into the hard reality that their data state is a mess. And so better kind of tackle that first and kind of look at the data state, understand what you have, what you may be missing, and what requirements there may be for cleaning, transforming data, normalizing data. All of that usually is required. So it is, and even if you don't end up doing anything else, every healthcare organization should do this, should do a data strategy workshop, because you're going to be doing something in the future. And the more time you let elapse before you do something like that, the more data debt, if you will, you're acquiring. So this is kind of foundational. It's the cornerstone for anything else that you do, and it's great that Argonaut offers it.
Fantastic. Esteban, as always, pleasure talking to you. Thank you for joining the webinar today. Great conversation. Once again, thanks everyone for joining our session today. We look forward to interacting with you after the webinar, answer any questions you may have. Esteban, Carrie, any closing comments before we wrap?
No, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Esteban. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out. Thanks everyone for your time, and we hope you join us for future events. Thank you.
Thanks again.